Hello, and welcome to Open Nurses Psychedelic Chat. My name is Wendy Marusic. I'm one of the co-founders of Open Nurses, and it is my pleasure to be interviewing Houston Power, RN, on the Psychedelic Chat this month. So Houston was born in Washington and raised in Las Vegas, where basketball shaped much of his early life, leading him to play Division I before completing his college career and biology degree at Francis Marion University in South Carolina. While athletics guided his early path, his deeper passion for science and medicine led him to nursing, earning his BSN in 2011. He went on to spend nearly a decade in California ICUs, including shock, trauma, CVICU, neuro, and medical surgical units, before transitioning into psychiatry. In 2018, Houston joined Interventional Psychiatry in San Francisco as an infusion nurse. The transformative impact of IV ketamine therapy on patients solidified his commitment to the field. In 2020, he co-founded an IV ketamine clinic in Oakland with Dr. Alvin Lau, which later merged with Mindful Health Solutions in 2023. Since then, Houston has served as a lead RN, evolving his role into nurse manager, overseeing the expansion of Mindful Health Solutions' IV ketamine program across California and beyond. Today, he remains dedicated to advancing psychedelic medicine, particularly through IV ketamine research and the integration of emerging tools such as virtual reality for preparation and integration therapy. With that, I'd like to welcome Houston. Hello. Thanks for agreeing to be interviewed.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. And for those of you who are joining us live, please add in the chat where you're joining from.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm in San Francisco. Where are you, in Oakland?
Yes, well, right now I'm in San Ramon, but yes, working mainly in Oakland.
Okay, well, great. So, and I read your bio, but let's hear about the trajectory of your nursing career. You know, how did you become a nurse? And then how did you psychedelics?
Absolutely, thanks. Well, I got into nursing. I was thinking about med school in college and did some soul searching, and I came across the job CRNA, and I did some reading up on it, watched some videos, and a light bulb went off. And it wasn't so much the anesthesia aspect, but the counseling part that you do before and after with the patient. And I thought how important that is. That could be some of the most important things that the patient's going through, whether it's a minor surgery or big one. And just got focused in on that. And so went to nursing school after my biology degree, got in, and went back to Vegas. I played basketball, obviously, in college, and had a good career there. It was fun. And when I went into nursing, I wasn't sure if I'd like it, but I knew I had to do it to get to the CRNA level.
Okay.
So my goal was getting into critical care as fast as I could. And sure enough, when I was in school and clinicals, I fell in love with it, and it was perfect for me. So got the ICU experience. Started traveling, and never ended up going back to school because I have my daughter, my wonderful daughter, Raylyn. She's 10 now and in 4th grade. So, but that's been a blessing in disguise. It's kind of funny that I'm doing a form of anesthesia now with ketamine, so full circle.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So got into, like you said, psychiatry in 2018, and also fell in love with that. A nurse friend of mine sent me a message. She found a job offer on Indeed, and it was for IV ketamine nurse, infusion nurse. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
And went there, applied, got the job, started doing it on the side, and just unbelievable to see the immediate impact that it has. And started doing that about once a week, every other week, sometimes more, sometimes less. And after a while, I started to realize, this job is so important for the patient on who's giving you this medicine. And I happened to be pretty good at it. And the patients were calling the doc, asking if I was the nurse. And when I wasn't the nurse, they would cancel their appointment.
Go on.
Yeah. So he's like, "Come on, Houston, what's wrong with you?" I realized that aspect and kept doing it for a while, for about 2 years. And I was very fortunate to be with Roberto Estrada and Dr. Allison McInnes, and they're my mentors. And after a while, yeah, I went on a journey myself up in Tahoe, and you know, universe, God, what do I want to do with my life? I had been approaching 10 years in critical care at that point, and I got the answer: open up a clinic. So I went and got some lawyers, and I had already known Dr. Lau from a Christmas party that we met at the year prior, and heard that he was interested in opening up a clinic as well. So we got there, and we're on the same page. So we did it, and we spent 2 years doing that. Once we opened up, it was a nice mom and pop shop, you know.
Right, you opened up pandemic or right before,
or? Yeah, so like during, basically. I mean, essentially right before. So 2020, and then going through it. So that made it difficult. We definitely probably would have done a lot more, but I was very proud of us. We still paid the bills, and we still both had our full-time jobs. I was full-time ICU at Stanford, and he was chief inpatient psychiatrist at the VA. We would do infusions on Wednesdays and Saturday mornings, which is a very cool thing for patients. The weekend is a novel time slot there. And so we did it. Of course, never made any money. All the money we did, just put back into it, pay the rent and all that stuff. And after a couple of years, we kind of hit a breaking point of, well, what do we want to do with this? And he came across Toby Martone, and they knew each other from the VA. And Toby came by the clinic and realized, like, hey, you guys got a well-oiled machine here. And this is amazing. You guys are doing good work. And that company, Mindful Health Solutions, hadn't had IV ketamine yet. So they just did S-ketamine, TMS, and management. And so very fortunate, they brought us on, they absorbed us and hired us to run the program.
Oh.
So I've been doing that since. And I soon became the nurse manager after we expanded. We had our hub in Oakland, and then we opened up in SF. Several months went by, and we had the opportunity to open up in Sacramento. Did that, and then subsequently Austin, Texas, and we're about to open up in Santa Monica, which I'm super excited about. As far as I know, our clinic in Oakland is the largest IV ketamine clinic for psychiatry, and if not, probably top two. We've grown now significantly over the past year to about 50 infusions a week. Wow. So it's pretty big. Some days we double up. We have 2 doctors and 2 nurses. But typically, 8 patients a day. We spread it out though, so it's very nice and even, and all the patients get good quality care. So that's one of my focuses we'll talk about later. But so I've been doing that since. It's been a dream. And for all the nurses that are watching this, I was probably in your position too, where you love your job. There's certain parts of your job that you love, but it's stressful. It's hard. We hold space for patients. We take a lot. We absorb a lot. And so I knew it was kind of killing me in the sense in the ICU. Even though I was great at my job and my coworkers loved me, it was hard, after a while. So engineering this, what can I do where I want to wake up in the morning and not feel like I'm going to work, and that's really what it is and what it turned into. So I'm very blessed in that aspect. Yeah. So that's where we're at now.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was the first IV ketamine so full disclosure, if people haven't seen my interview, I work at Mindful Health Solutions as well as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I'm at a different office, the main San Francisco one, where we do MS and we do S-ketamine, but we don't have IV.
Yeah, well soon. I'm recruiting slowly.
Right, hopefully. But so very first IV ketamine, for Mindful.
Yeah, and then part of our mission when we opened up in Oakland was affordability and accessibility. So when I was doing my per diem job in San Francisco in 2018 to 2020, I started realizing these patients are cash pay, and they have the money to do it, and they were getting way better. Their mental health improved, but kind of unfair, for just people that have money to be able to do it, and it's such a special thing if you know what it is. And so when we opened up the clinic, we lowered our costs, we were competitive, and we really did it from a heart-centered space. And it was very powerful, and that's what made us successful, which I'll get into later, like what's required to grow and to be successful in this modality. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. So you're the first person I think we've had on who's owned a clinic or founded a clinic.
Yeah, right on.
So
It's not hard. You can do it.
Yeah, as a nurse, how did that?
Well, with a medical corporation, you have to have an even ratio. So if you start a company, you have to have the physician, right? And any related medical licenses have to have an even ratio. So if you have one doctor, you can't have 10 nurses. As co-owners, you can only have one nurse, right? But if you have two doctors, you can have two nurses.
Okay.
And so Dr. McInnes helped us out a lot. There was another nurse that started with us, but she didn't do clinical work. She was more administrative, even though she had a nurse license. And so Dr. McInnes helped start us out and then, backed off and didn't actually do work with us per se.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm forever grateful for that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so, but I'm very happy to be with Mindful Health, and we are expanding and, just having these meetings with the CEO and upper management. Their plans are to make this one of the best psychiatry companies in the nation. Mm-hmm. We're already over several states, but the IV ketamine modality is just starting, mm-hmm. and it's going to be a big future. So that's my mission, to make this, quality as we can. Yeah. So what is the role of the nurses at the clinic? So nurses they kind of do it all. We don't have techs. It's just the doctor and the nurse. Mm-hmm. So, the patient will come in and, you're greeting them, bring them back to the room. Chit chat, start the IV, start vitals, give any pre-meds that they need. Usually just nausea, anti-nausea medicines over and blood pressure medicine if they need it. And, get any pertinent information. Bring the doc in, or the provider. It could be an NP also. Mm-hmm. And we talk more about it, set the intention. We're very psychedelic minded. We all have a reverence for this treatment. Mm-hmm. Most of us have experienced it ourselves, and which is very important. We can talk about that later. And create the setting and then drop the medicine. Boom, 40-minute infusion. We're there if you need us, but we're trying to direct you inward. Mm-hmm. And it might take a little bit of time if you have anxiety coming into it. It's part of our job to coax you out of that, and also to educate you. You don't know what you don't know. So it's part of our job to get you dialed into the psychedelic range as fast as we can, to get the most benefit out of it. Because when you are dialed into the right range, we always see direct behavior change every time, and there's always way more success. So that's where we're going with that. After you're done with the infusion, we turn the pump off, 10-15 minutes goes by. It varies a little, and you're kind of back to baseline. Still a little bit woozy, and we come in and we talk about it. We do some psychotherapy. Could be a few minutes, 5, 10, 15, just depends. Mm-hmm. And after that, we're good to go. Make sure you're steady on your feet, and then you're out the door. Make sure you have a good ride home, obviously. No driving. Right. Yep. Yeah. So are you doing some of the therapy part, or is that every day? Yeah. So before and after, the nurse is so important in this role because they're your first point of contact. So if you're the patient, the nurse is coming up to you, and if you've been on ketamine or just any psychedelic in general, mm-hmm. That first person that's with you and the person giving you the medicine is so important. Right. It's their vibe, right? So, one of the points I would stress is, like, it doesn't matter what your title is, per se, or what your ego is about yourself. If you're not into it and you don't, you're not operating from a heart space, mm-hmm. and like Ram Dass has this thing called fierce grace. We talk about, if you can't hold attention to somebody and be in it with them, then you might be missing the boat. You can still do decent care, but it's not going to be as good as it could be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So do you think nurses bring a different perspective to psychedelic therapy work? Absolutely. Yeah. The good thing, let's see, I wrote some bullet points down here about how nurses, we're trained to hold the whole human, right? The body, the mind, the spirit, social context, right? Right. So you got to be comfortable with vulnerability. And, just other things like basic nursing things, body fluids, but emotional rawness is something that happens all the time. So you want to meet the patient where they are, for sure. So the nursing's ethic of presence mirrors the psychedelic principle of set and setting. So your presence with the patient is so important.
Right.
But if you're just coming to work and you're stressed out or just got to get through the day, it's not the right mentality, for sure. So you got to be charged up for this, emotionally at least, and be able to hold space. We act as translators between mystical experience and measurable outcomes. Definitely a good one.
That's
so, yeah, I'm going to quote some of my psychedelic forefathers here. So Ram Dass would say, we're walking each other home.
right.
And nurses live that literally. So we bring humility, intuition, and grounded compassion that balances the therapist's analytic lens. Boom. For sure.
For sure, yeah. I think all your time in the ICUs really helped prepare you for this?
Absolutely, yeah. I've helped countless people pass away. I've been in countless codes. When I'm coming in the room, when I come in on shift, you're essentially naked, emotionally, physically. I have to assess head to toe from you. So I had to develop a skill to make people comfortable when I'm in their presence right away within 30 seconds of meeting them. I'm getting, their dignity is gone, right? So you have to make them feel super comfy. And that became kind of a natural skill set that I developed over a long time, and it translated beautifully to psychiatry.
Yeah, I feel that as well. I was a oncology nurse for years, doing a bone marrow transplant. People were quite sick, but they were still, ambulatory and awake.
Yeah, I know you've talked about that on this probably before, but I'd be curious to hear a few things because I'm fascinated with the work you did with IV ketamine with oncology patients. That's very profound. I've had some. I worked in oncology ICU, and of course shock trauma. We use ketamine all the time, but I would convince the attending at Kaiser to use ketamine as much as they could on some of the oncology patients because not only it would just help lift them, but they're at the end of their life, and we need to give them some relief and hopefully a strong psychospiritual experience. It's very powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I never got to give them directly IV ketamine in the hospitals where I've worked. I've done several end-of-life trainings.
Nice.
And I happen to have several S-ketamine patients who happen to have cancer, which has been really amazing to be able to drop in and talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a quick story before we go to the next, which I think people would really appreciate. So this patient, she's like 92, healthy, walkie-talkie, lives independently at home. All of a sudden, one day, she just went, and couldn't talk, but just screaming, writhing in pain. So they bring her in. The family was kind of not that educated medically, and they did not want her to be intubated because they thought, well, once you're intubated, that's the end, right? Which is so far from the truth. But so they shipped her up to ICU and they put her on some light sedation, maybe some Precedex, and that kind of bottoms your blood pressure out. So of course they're adding on a vasopressor like Levophed. And for 3 days, this poor woman, every 5-10 minutes, was screaming at the top of her lungs, right? And there's nothing we can do because we had no diagnostic data. I mean, we drew her blood, everything's fine, but we can't scan her brain because she can't stay still. And you'd have to protect the airway, intubate, sedate, and then get her down to MRI, right?
Right.
So on the 3rd day, she wasn't my patient, but I was tired of hearing this. So I go to the attending, I'm like, hey, why don't you try, and I've been doing ketamine infusions with psychiatry at that point. So I was like, why don't you try ketamine? That'll help her blood pressure go up, not down. And we can actually get her down there. I'm going to come back tonight. I'm going to take her as my patient, and let's do this. So she actually listened to me. I was very proud of her to do that. And so I came back, got her on it. I convinced the rounding residents, hey, they're trying to say like, oh, only a little bit. And I'm like, dude, you can get the ketamine up a little bit. She'll be safe. We'll get the other meds off. I'll take her down. They were kind of nervous, oh, Houston, I don't know, increased salivation, all these side effects. I'm like, time out. Have you ever given ketamine by itself? And they're mostly anesthesia residents, right? And they thought about it and like, well,
Yeah.
no, it's always an adjunct, right? So I was like, I give this on a regular basis. If you do 30 or 40 milligrams an hour, she's going to be fine. Let's make this happen. This poor woman is suffering. So I take her down. I get her on it. They agree. And, crank it up. And this woman just went to a beautiful twilight. And you can see in her eyes it was glossed over, and she was at peace, and the suffering was gone. The pain at least was gone, at least temporarily, right? She still couldn't talk. She had expressive aphasia. So we go down to MRI, scan the brain, bring her back up. Sure enough, she had a tumor that was pressing on the brain and end of life, non-operable. And we shipped her off shortly after that to palliative care, and she passed away. Remained on the ketamine until she passed away.
Yeah.
In a beautiful twilight, and I was so happy for that. And that really, situations like that really propelled me in my work. I just felt very, very good about it, and this could be a very powerful tool if used correctly and safely.
Oh, wow. What a great story.
I got many.
Yeah?
Too many, probably.
All right. So what advice would you have for a nurse who's interested in working with psychedelics? Where do they start?
I get that question a lot because I hire them, and that's one of my main questions. It's kind of weird to do an interview with me because it's a good thing to have ketamine experience. A lot of people are afraid to talk about their personal drug history, especially if they're a professional, right? And they're all scared of like, oh no, people are going to know. If you're in this field and you don't have experience with psychedelics and or ketamine, and you don't have a reverence for it, then good luck. I mean, you're going to eventually get some kind of imposter syndrome, and you're going to have anxiety, and ultimately the patient outcomes aren't going to be as good as they could. So, it starts with inner work. You got to do inner work with yourself. You got to know your own mind before guiding others through theirs. So educate yourself, read books. I would say the first psychedelic book I ever read was DMT, The Spirit Molecule by Rick Strassman. Let's go, Rick. But I think the Psychedelic Explorer's Guide by James Fadiman, and you can go into classics like Be Here Now, Ram Dass, all that kind of stuff, right? But that's the main thing. You got to really know your stuff because you're going to get a lot of questions. We're not just, when people come in for ketamine, they're going to ask you adjacent questions about psychedelics, and if you don't know, it's like, okay. And also if you say, I've never done this before, but I'm here to give this to you, which is the number one question all patients are, have you done this before, Houston? And it's like, if my answer is no, unfortunately, there's an immediate loss of trust. And they might still show up, but you're not really going to have much patient retention in the long run. And this is the main message I'm trying to get to the higher ups of any big company that's focused on venture capitalism or growing and stuff. You have to vet your staff with this particular modality. It's not like esketamine. It's not low dose stuff. These people are having the most intense, powerful psychospiritual experiences of their life. And if they're trying to tell you about it and you're looking at them like, okay, well, that's nice. Yeah. So do you have a ride home? Like, you're missing the boat. You're missing the boat. And so it boils my blood. So I would say to nurses, find mentors or supervision through organizations like Open. There's something like Fireside Project, there's MAPS, there's all kinds of stuff you can get into. Somatic and mindfulness skills are very important. So like, we're always preaching yoga, but yoga, stretch your body, breath work, and trauma-informed care is very good. I wasn't that informed with trauma from a psychiatry standpoint, and I've definitely grown in that aspect to be a little bit more sensitive, understanding where something's coming from. And you might not know what trauma they have. They could have kept it hidden from you. Oh, wow, someone's at the door. Okay, we'll have to say later, sorry. So let's see, besides that, for the nurses, I would say stay rooted in your nursing ethics, informed consent, non-maleficence, and all that good stuff. And approach psychedelics not as saviors, but as mirrors for the patient. The plants are teachers, so you have to learn respectfully with humility, for sure. Yep.
Do you feel that nurses need an advanced degree to work in this area?
No, kind of like what I said before, it doesn't matter what your title is. You should, the more education, the better. And so I advocate anybody like advanced degree, advanced degree, advanced degree. But we're seeing a trend here where, especially in psychiatric nursing, where there's a lot of nurses who want to get into it that have zero experience in mental health, right? And they could be passionate about it, but ultimately it's like, oh, I heard that psychiatric nurse practitioners make the most money out of all the NPs, right? So if that's your mentality and that's your driving force, then you probably should reevaluate for sure. Yeah, definitely. It's a good question.
Yeah, are there any trainings you recommend, or?
You got, well, hey, maybe I'll start one.
Yeah.
I don't know of any training. I mean, I was very lucky to be in the position I was in, and I got mentored by Dr. McInnes and Roberto, and then growing in my skill set with Dr. Lau. So yeah, but I'm sure there are underground / above ground retreats that you can go to that are offered to nurses and providers for this kind of stuff. I know that, oh gosh, the ketamine papers. His name is escaping me right now.
Phil Wolfson, he does.
Phil, I know he's done some stuff in the past.
I'd also recommend Prati, Prati. I've trained with them in Colorado.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So they do ketamine trainings, and they're experiential. It's like a 4-day retreat usually. They do sublingual and IM, and it's open to therapists and medical people.
Yeah, that's very important. And I know that, I understand the stigma behind these things, right? Especially from a physician standpoint. So if you think about it from their lens, they have worked hard in their life to get where they're at, and they have developed their consciousness to a high degree, right? So when you present them with the idea of like, hey, you should do this drug to have better relatability to your patients, they're like, whoa, I don't know, I don't want to mess up my brain, right? But it's more out of just like ignorance than anything, or just lack of education. And I get where they're coming from. I understand that. And if that's the case, and if you're holding strong to that, you don't want to experience psychedelics yourself, but you want to give this to people, you're not going to be as successful. So, yeah, time out 1 second.
Right.
That's so funny. My daughter's friends are looking for her, and they're knocking on the door. That's hilarious. Sorry, guys. But nonetheless, yeah. So that's kind of my stance on that.
Okay. Yeah. So I trained at CIS, the California Institute of Integral Studies. At the time, ketamine wasn't that popular as a modality because that's the one that you can get above ground, right? But we did holotropic breath work, which is it's a way to get to an altered state.
Yeah, definitely. You can induce it naturally for sure.
Or psychiatric contraindications to trying psychedelics.
Yeah, it definitely will help.
There are other ways. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So let's see. So how do you envision nurses in the future of psychedelics?
Integral. 100%. I mean, they're going to be, they're the most important part because, they have the license to administer the medicine. They're usually the ones that have to start the IV, which is a big deal. And if there wasn't an IV involved in this, it would be more broad on who could do it. But I think that, from a clinical standpoint, you want nursing, ideally with critical care background, not absolutely necessary, but we need to know that you're not going to freak out if someone's having a really hard experience that you have to coax them down, or if they have like a hypertensive crisis. You're going to know that usually in the first session, how their body reacts. But if they're cardiovascularly frail and, they shoot up to 215 over 110 and their blood pressure, what are you going to do and how are you going to handle it? So you definitely want a nurse in that aspect, for sure. They're huge. They're going to be the future for it.
How often do you check vitals during a session?
Every 10 minutes. We do a baseline, and then we have have it on the arm, automatic every 10 minutes, continuous pulse ox. And we're always checking in. So even though we want you to go inward on your own journey, we're always checking in every 5-10 minutes minimum. Just peeking in at you, making sure how you are in the chair. We're looking at your breathing, any subtle movements. Intuition is really involved in this too. As you get along and start getting in your groove with it, you'll be in another room starting an IV on another patient while the other person's infusing, and you might have just this feeling, the spidey sense come over you, like, I need to check on them real quick. And sure enough, it's like perfect timing.
That nurse
slide right in there. Yep.
Totally.
And sometimes 98% of the time, they just need to feel your presence when they're dissociated. You can hold their hand. You pull back the headphone. Hey, you're doing great. Yeah. And you don't want to talk too much. The language center is scrambled, right? You're doing great. I'm here with you. You're doing amazing. Yeah. And that is as simple as that. Oh, okay. Then back on. Boom. Yeah. For sure.
That's great. Yeah. All right. How about a story when people ask, "Oh, what do you do?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm a nurse," and then you're like, "Oh, I work with ketamine." Has that shifted a bit? Since you started doing this in 2018, it was a lot newer.
Yeah, when I first started it, I didn't even tell anybody. I knew that how it was perceived or how it could be perceived. And so I just kind of kept it quiet. A lot of people are very judgy on that. There's a lot of drug issues out there. And honestly, ketamine recreationally is becoming a bit of a problem in our culture. It has been a huge problem in Europe, way before it got big in the United States. But that's something we just have to educate, and I remember I'd be on break with an ICU nurse or an ICU patient, right? And I'm sitting there at my computer and I'm reading my book, like Phil Wolfson's ketamine papers or something like that, right? And I'm studying it, absorbing all of it, and the attendings they'd walk by, kind of look at it and look at me and kind of give me a little scoff and move on, So I knew that, some people like it, but a lot of people are look down on it because they just don't understand what we're doing really. And there's a bad stigma because, you have a lot of these clinics, no offense to anesthesia, but yeah, they're overdosing people. The main purpose is financial typically. They do care, but not that much. I can't speak for all of them. I don't want to speak in generalities. Right. But I really think that you should be involved with psychiatry if you're doing this. There are some anesthesiologists and even ER doctors that do this that are absolute saints and that approach it from a psychiatry standpoint. One of those would be my buddy Sam Coe. I call him my buddy, but Reset Ketamine on YouTube. If you look at it, he's probably one of the biggest YouTube guys that has informational videos for patients, and you can learn a lot as a nurse as well with that. And then Anthony Cave, Medical Secrets on YouTube. He's got a big following. I met him in 2018. I was doing PACU on the side in SF, and he rolled out a patient to me, an ortho patient. He was giving me a report, going through the medicines, and I think the 4th or 5th drug he gave was ketamine, 25 milligrams, just threw a little bit in there. And I was like, ketamine? You get ketamine on your ortho cases? And he's like, every time, man, every time. And I'm like, my man, let's go. Because he knows that it has an antidepressant effect, and why not, right? You're helping the patient out. And so I started telling him what I did. We became fast friends. And even he was actually against it at first. He thought, Houston people, they don't need ketamine. Ketamine should just be a drug that anesthesia uses. I don't like that psychiatry is doing it. I don't know if that's safe. Long story short, I took him out for dinner, him and his wife, and we talked psychedelics for about 3 hours. Well, shortly after that, the pandemic hit. And long story short, he is now a psychedelic advocate. He gives IV ketamine to patients for psychiatry purposes and for pain. He is the man. And, he's doing it, and he's growing his clinic in San Francisco. I'm so proud of him. And, totally changed his ideas around because, the thought really is, well, people, they don't need drugs like this. What they need is proper sleep. They need, love. They need connection. they need a sense of belonging in their life. And if they don't have these things, or exercise, of course, and that's what they need. I'm like, well, hey, not everyone can do those things. And so these are tools to bring somebody back to a place in their life where they can start doing those important, essential things, like finding love or being able to love themselves even, and go from there. And it's really powerful.
So what kind of self-care practices do you do to help take care of you as you're holding space for all these patients?
Well, my ceiling is pretty high. My baseline is pretty high because of my background, right? So it hasn't been that difficult for me. Of course, self-practice. I'm a very active person. I played basketball in college. So I've maintained my habits of working out and lifting weights and exercising. I spin poi, do flow art, getting pretty serious about it. We got a show in March coming up. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, just family, my daughter is my focus. So I used to say everyone would be stressed out maybe, or to some degree in the clinic. And if you come from a very intense ICU experience and people are dying left and right, or there's such raw emotion, you come out of that environment into this. Well, the patient's healthy physically, essentially. They're walkie-talkie, they can go home. And so I'm like, no one's dying. Ain't nothing to be stressed about. Let's go.
Feel right.
Yeah, what are you worried about? Like some little thing? Like, come on. So my baseline was up here, and it always has been.
So, yeah, I think that's another testament to why nurses are so, such a great fit for some of this work, because we've seen it manage so much more. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
So how do you see nurses like taking on maybe an advocacy role? Or how do we get this message out there? Or
I think just doing what we're doing right now and similar things to it. We have to let the world know. There's not a lot of good information out there for nurses about this particular thing, and they'd be very interested in it. But there needs to be training for it from a nursing side. I was thinking even with MHS, we could develop some kind of video series for prospective nurses or nurses trying to get into this, and really dialing in all the little nooks and crannies that you need to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you take a role in training you're the nurse manager, right?
Yeah, I train all of our new hires and so forth. Absolutely.
So what is that training like, or how do you train you?
Well, after we interview and you're the right fit, we'll bring you into our Oakland clinic because we're the busiest there. Mm-hmm. And we'll bring you in 4 or 5 days in a row, and you'll just get all the repetitions, and you'll see. And the functional part of it's easy for nursing, or for most of us, right? All you're doing is starting an IV, putting the vital signs on, and then giving them a nausea or a blood pressure pill, right? Mm-hmm. But everything outside of that, your awareness, how your vibe is, even from when the patient walks in the door, it's the littlest thing. Psychiatric interviewing is a really good textbook that they'll give you in MP school. You might remember it, but they kind of teach you basically to approach every patient as if they were actively suicidal. And if you have that in the back of your mind, you're going to always be successful in connecting with them, for sure. Slide off.
All right. So it looks like we're getting a few questions in the chat. If people have more, they can throw them in there. We'll switch over to that shortly. So yeah, let's see. So what kind of perils do you see with mainstreaming of psychedelics, right? Back in 2018, there was almost nobody knew about it. Then kind of Michael Pollan's book came out. Suddenly, you open any newspaper, turn on the TV, they're talking about psychedelics.
There can be a lot of perils. I was a little bit disappointed to know that, like, when MAPS ran out of money for continuing operations worldwide. I mean, I heard rumors it was like several millions a month that they were having to pay out. So they went to places, big corporations like Salesforce, to help with their research and so forth. And I just don't have confidence that the people in those particular companies have the best interest for people in general to do these things the right way, which is why we need to talk like this, and we need to get this information out there and develop things, because from the ground level, people making decisions are not on the ground level in those organizations. So I'm happy for their efforts, but they're looking at it from a capitalist point of view, in the sense of, how can we make this profitable? And so that's where the perils come in. Lack of education, that would be a peril for sure, for every person that's doing psychedelics. So the stigma needs to go away. There's dangers in psychedelics. I can do a whole talk on about dangers of psychedelics, 100%. Yeah. So we just got to do it the right way.
Right. People don't know what they're getting into, or there's not a regulated supply for a lot of these.
Right. And so they go find it elsewhere. And then, the homie's giving it to you and you don't really know. And then you have a bad experience, or you're not in the right set and setting. And then they're like, oh yeah, I tried mushrooms one time. And, it's like, well, what was your set and setting? Well, I was at a party, blah, blah, blah. I was drinking alcohol. And then I took, well, how much did you take? Well, I don't know, a couple, this much. I'm like, did you weigh it?
Right. No.
So you have no clue on the dosing. So this is kind of a general experience of a lot of people in public, that are just out there doing it, and there's no guidance. So those are some things we need to correct.
Absolutely. All right. They could, let's look in the chat here, see what.
Finance, sales, and marketing teams should not have controlling voices, decision making. Agreed. Agreed. Or at least, they need to have collaborative decision making. How about that? We'll give them their due. We appreciate them. We love them for what they do. But yeah, collaborative.
Yeah. Here's a question. All right. What resources or organizations do you keep in touch with to stay at the cutting edge of ketamine evidence-based practice or practice?
Well, not to bring up Phil again, but the Ketamine Research Library is a really good resource. They keep that pretty up to date. It costs a little money to get a membership to it, but they draw all of the ketamine research from all the different, PubMed or all the different servers, and they consolidate it in one spot for you. So you can see what the most up-to-date research is, whether it's on humans or rats or, whatever the topic is related to ketamine. Is really good. So that's a good resource if you're an academic mind.
Okay, it's called the Ketamine Research Library.
Yep, check it out. It's pretty cool.
You need a subscription or
$100.
$100
for a year though. You get it for a year, and then you can literally just download everything off of it that you need. So, and you can mooch off my password if you want.
Okay. Any other ways you stay?
I mean, I work closely with Dr. McInnes. I mentioned her how she helped us open her clinic, but now she works with us at MHS, and it is a dream come true. She went away for 4 years and did some Osmine things and EMR stuff for psychiatry, and she came back into patient care because she wasn't fulfilled with her roles. She missed her patients and the energy exchange that she gets. And so I get to work with her. I just worked with her today in the clinic. It was amazing. And so, I'm around academics. I'm around people who are there. And so they're up to date. The doctors are up to date. They have a lot of resources and stuff. Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
Oh yeah. Shout out. Shout out to the doctors.
Right. I don't know. Andrew's backstage here. He wants to pull up a question, or I can find one. Let's see. Oh, here we go. All right, this is from us. Let me put my devil's advocate hat on for a second. Sounds like nurses are a great fit for working with ketamine. Do you see any risks for nurses in this role?
It depends on the person, but I think in general, no. There is the only times you're going to get in trouble is you're dealing with psychedelics. They're altered states, so if you're not used to that, things can get a little bit hairy if you don't know how to de-escalate things. But I don't see any inherent risk. Or maybe a little bit more specifics would be better. I can give you a better answer.
Right. Well, maybe so, or if it can be triggering, right, to a nurse, if they have their own unprocessed traumas or other things, right, to have.
Yeah, you have to, like we said in the beginning, you have to do the inner work first. And if you're not prepared to get into this, then don't, or just wait until you're ready. Yeah. I mean, I had a unique experience because I was essentially titrating people's consciousness for 10 years in ICU, right? That's a huge part of my role. And that's all I'm doing all day. I'm just like looking where you're at, I'm assessing, doing my RAS scale, this and that. And let me crank that up a little bit. Let me turn this one down. Okay, perfect. Right. And so, if you narrow that down to just one medicine, that's cake for me. And, but if you don't have that experience, yeah. So it is unique. And that begs the question, well, if we want to expand this modality across the nation, let's say the FDA comes to their senses and approves it for use for psychiatry, then you're going to get millions of people with insurance able to get it. And so then you're going to have a mass need for hiring for all these nurses. So, the quality of care is very at risk right there, because if you're just hiring, a nurse that wants to do an easy job, that's an infusion job, then you might be missing the boat for your patients.
Right, because they don't understand the.
Yeah, and again, I want to say this too, like to anyone watching that's in the field already, or that thinks about it, or that's really stuck on the studies at 0.5 mg per kg. I can go recruit 100 people on the street. Doesn't matter what their past or history is. We can hook them up at 0.5 mg per kg, the introductory dose. And we will see that their scores, and they're filling out their measures, their scores will go down, positively. Almost all of them, right? But we know there's so much more to that. There's so much more to that. And, that's what makes us special. And that's what makes us the clinic that we are in Oakland, for example. We have staff that knows that's in tune with those things.
Right. It's just not the medication. Although people who've gone to those IV ketamine clinics that are run by anesthesiologists who just get infusions and leave, they still get better. But
right. That's what I'm saying. You're going to get better. So then how can you knock it? Right. I know we're looking for transformation. We're looking for, I want to decrease my meds. I want to come down on that stuff. I'm tired of taking these meds all day, which is messing me up. Most of the patients haven't even been drug-free for 5, 10, 15 years. And it's like, well, how can you expect this person to get better when there's side effects to all these things? And that as a practitioner or a doctor, but the liability to completely titrate them off is too risky. And so we're kind of stuck here in psychiatry in this limbo with, what are we doing here with the psychedelics? Are we trying to transform you? Are we just trying to maintain you? Are we trying to prevent you from having SI? Like, what is the goal here? And if you just kind of make it a one size fits all, just put them all at the introductory dose, check off your boxes, and then send them home and cross your fingers, hope they do good, you're not going to be successful. You're really not.
All right. Oh, we got another question here. Let's see, when you're looking to hire a nurse to work in your clinic, what are the qualities you look for?
I interview them as if I was the patient. And so if I know, like, okay, would I want this person giving me this medicine? And so they have to be human with you, right? They have to have relatability, and they can't have anxiety. I know it's a big kind of topic for a lot of people, because a lot of us have anxiety. But if you don't know how to quail it, or you don't know how to leave that at the door, they're going to pick up on that, right? So that's a big deal. You have to be a calm, cool customer, and you have to be confident in yourself, and you have to have fierce grace, like we were saying before. You have to be able to, and very intensely hold space for somebody when they're going through a raw emotion, and you have to thrive on that and want to do it. And it's really powerful, because you're going to go home with that energy exchange feeling so fulfilled as a nurse. And I'm very blessed that I get to do this on a daily basis. I wouldn't trade it for the world. A lot of my patients, or our patients, they'll come out of a journey and they'll just be thinking, and Houston, you got the best job in the world. And I'm like, I know. Yep. Yeah. Engineered it over 3 years, but yeah, I know. It really is. And that's why I'm excited for you, Wendy, too, to get into this when they do have it at that location. I'm super excited for you. It's going to change the game, just for you as a person.
So how do you assess for that in an interview? Or do you have them role play, or how do you?
I can tell. I'm just talking to you.
Just tell, yeah.
Yeah, I can talk to you. I mean, I put them through scenarios, but I'll ask an open-ended question, and then I'll just let them have the floor and just kind of sit back and just watch their body mannerisms, this and that, and kind of see how it goes, their tone of voice. Would this be a good person for that? And you might not be in the interview. Your interview might stink, but you really are good. You're just nervous. So there's more depth to it for sure in the analysis. Yeah. Let's see, Fierce Grace. Say more about that. Let's see. I think I had some bullet points on Fierce Grace. Give me a second here. I'm gonna scroll down. I know Mr. Ram Dass is the man. I also want to do a shout out to James Fadiman. He's one of my heroes. He's actually a big reason why I started the IV ketamine clinic with Dr. Lau. I met him by chance at Stanford, and I got to speak to him about 30 minutes. And I read his books, and the Psychedelic Explorer's Guide was one of the first psychedelic books I read, and it helped me prepare me for my first mushroom journey back when I was 27, 2013. It totally changed my life. And if I didn't have his information in that book, I would have been lost in the sauce a little bit for sure. And so when I got to meet him, I was fanboying, it's like, oh my God, Beyonce's here, like that, right? And, he could tell I was super excited. He was very graceful to me. And I told him the work I was doing with IV ketamine when I was doing it on the side in SF. And I told him he was my hero, right? And he just came right back to me and goes, Houston, you're my hero. What? And he's like, you're the one in the field doing the work. I'm just writing about it. And that hit me hard. Yeah, very, very hard. So it kind of propelled me to go forth there. And so I owe a lot to him. And but nonetheless, let me find Ram. So after his stroke in '97, Ram Dass used Fierce Grace to describe the paradox of being blessed by adversity. So, his suffering became a teacher to himself, and it revealed that grace can arrive not gently, but through challenge. So Fierce Grace means that even pain, loss, or fear can be a doorway to awakening when met with love and surrender. That's the overall theme of ketamine: letting go, surrender. Stop getting in your head about it. What's my blood pressure? What's this? Just be able to let go. And of course, if a lot of patients could let go at baseline, they might not be as bad off as they are. So it's something that is a gift when you are able to experience it and direct experience, and then you learn and you go, aha, the light bulb goes off, and you incorporate that in your baseline. But psychedelics often bring clients to this, or patients to this threshold, facing ego death or buried trauma, right? And it is through acceptance and transformation that transformation unfolds. So you have to be accepting. So that kind of puts Fierce Grace in a nutshell for you.
Wasn't there also a movie, Fierce Grace? Was it a documentary about him?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it was like after he had the stroke, right? That's kind of the thing. I haven't seen it, but I've seen I know of it.
Yeah. All right. So what is the method for deciding the dose ceiling for IV ketamine? Are there variables you think should be considered when accounting for potential differences in metabolism or tolerance elsewhere?
Oh, let me see that question. Well, the dosing, we start at 0.5 milligrams per kilogram.
You started that?
What's that?
You start everyone at that dose?
Not necessarily. I mean, but mostly. Yeah, if you're naive to it, then
Yep.
absolutely. If you have experience, then we'll kind of honor where you were at a different place. Or if you are an esketamine patient, for example, and transitioning to IV because you need a stronger effect, then we'll maybe start you at 0.6. It just kind of depends. But our ceiling is 1.2 milligrams per kilogram. If you require more than that, typically there's a reason. I feel like I'm a master investigator at this point with that kind of stuff. Are you drinking alcohol? Do you have lamictal on board? Do you have other drugs that are blocking the receptors in the glutamate system or the NMDA? Are you using ketamine already? Are you tolerant to it? So usually people fall around 0.7 to 0.9 milligrams per kilogram. And that's kind of the psychedelic range where we're aiming for. For people that don't know, introductory level, light dissociation, black expansive background, you may have some colors or shapes coming through. You might have some floating sensation, you're moving around, right? And you have some manifestation of the mind, and hopefully some love and connectedness. And it's very novel. But then if you crank it up, it's a whole different drug. And you really get into like multi-dimensional thing, more disembodied, where you're gone out of the room, right? And music is very, very important to this. It's about 80%, give or take, of the driving force. So that's something we can talk about if you want. But yeah, so that's our range, 0.5 to 1.2.
Okay. And is there any music you recommend, or you have any?
I'm the resident DJ at the clinic.
Okay, right.
Yeah, we have a whole playlist. I can maybe put that to you or give that to you to put in the chat on YouTube. We have a whole thing. I've even, with the help of AI and other friends that are into the music part, the science of the music into the brain, what's going on there with tones and bass and so forth. That it's all separated by diagnosis. So, if depression is your main thing, here's some of these tracks that'll work for you. If anxiety is your main diagnosis, these nice calm sounding ones will be better here and there. But overall, the most important thing is bass, I think, to accentuate the experience, and also obviously covering your eyes. That might be hard for some people if they're scared. So it's part of our job to coax them and coach them into some self-autonomy there and getting through the challenges within themselves.
Right.
The master of music. Let's go.
You got your fan club in the chat here.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? Thanks for being here.
So, all right. Oh. Do you ever use pharmacogenomic testing?
I wish. I know it's the future. I think they're studying that stuff and customizing medicines to people's genetics or background would be the best. I'm assuming that's what that is referring to.
Yeah, you're not doing that currently, or sometimes people to get, rapid metabolizers or reasons why people aren't responding to the.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah. So that would be part of the investigatory thing, right? If like, why is this person at 1.2 mg per kg and they're like this talking to me? Like, okay, what's going on here, really? So that could be part of it.
Right. It could be genetic or something versus psychological.
Yeah, but I mean, it can't vary that much. I mean, at least I have 3,900 sessions under my belt at this point, going back to 2018. And, I've never seen a case like that where it's simply a genetic thing that is preventing them from experiencing the medicine, regardless of what the patient is trying to convince you of. I require a lot more than normal. Okay. Yeah, but not that much.
Right. All right. So we're just about at time here. We have a traditional final question we usually ask people. So if you could go back and give your younger self a bit of advice, what would it be?
Well, there's going to be detours in your life all the time, and don't let that sway you from your dreams and your passion. A good analogy I'm borrowing from Dr. Sam Coe here, you're the captain of your ship, okay? And if you know where you're going and you know what you're doing, you're going to navigate through the waves and the storms that come. But if you don't know where you're going, then you're going to get pushed around. And if you don't have a plan, like Terence McKenna would say, you're going to be part of somebody else's plan. So just always remember that. Okay. And also, take care of your body, take care of your temple, take care of your brain. Try not to use substances too much. Space things out. Don't drink alcohol. I'm a huge hater on alcohol. It's not important, but not mean to bag on anybody. I know some people brew alcohol and make alcohol and they have a passion for it, which is beautiful. But if it's affecting your mental health and your body, then like pick a different tool. I feel like our whole society and world really, especially people in positions of power and wealth, alcohol are the go-to, and amphetamines, right? So you have people in this world making decisions who are predominantly in an alcohol, amphetamine consciousness. And, the ketamine or the psychedelic consciousness is completely foreign to them. So this is what we need to like merge those people. We got to change the hearts and minds of the people in power, and for yourself, also do some thought experiments. For example, get in touch with your future self. It sounds silly, but if you sit down and meditate and think about it, and as a thought experiment, you'll be surprised what you can do.
All right, that's beautiful.
Right on.
So thanks so much for agreeing to be interviewed. I think it's really to hear more about what you're doing, and as an RN too. We've interviewed a bunch of nurse practitioners recently, but RNs really hold the power to a lot of things. And
well, yeah, I mean, I aspire to be a psych MP. I just, I got to wait for, a little bit down the road, maybe.
Huh.
So I'm all about it.
No, I'm, kind of a little envious of being able to just sit with patients without having to do,
Yeah, I know all the other stuff too.
Right, all the charting.
I remember having a conversation with Andrew, years ago. I talked to him about 45 minutes. He was at the beach outside of UCSF. And I was asking him, like, what is your life really like? And how is it your lifestyle with your job and everything? And yeah, those may have been some of the complaints, but I'm very fortunate to predominantly be in patient care. So yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks so much. And
thank you.
Yeah, hope to see you at the Oakland clinic sometime.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Bye-bye.
All right, joining us. Good night.